Stand by. Contact.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts and on all social media platforms. Let me know how I'm doing. Any criticism is good criticism. We're back at it again with Gunny's Moto Minute. I got to talk about, I love telling stories. Like I say, I have to preface the conversation. If you're out there listening, T-Rex Arms, come on and keep it going. You know, I got to tell a story. When he was part of a road running community. When he was, anyways, things always seemed a bit elitist. Everything was centered on getting a podium finish, or at the very least, breaking a personal record each and every time they set out on a run. Even relaxing Saturday, Sunday morning runs quickly turned into contests to see how many people you could pass while waving and saying good morning, just to rub it in their and to make sure that they know that I'm passing them by. In terms of competitive running, trail running is hugely unorthodox. People wear trucker hats, eat candy bars. Man, I mean, if you do a marine type of, you got these green silky shorts. It's crazy, right? Chips for fuel. I even had a buddy, disappear from the trail for a few minutes, only to return with the few beers he stashed in the creek. Wow. And now that's how you get a run done. For most trail runners, though, he says, time isn't a concern. A 12 to 10 minute mile is pretty good. Something most runners would scoff at. Meaning, that's pretty crappy. Most runners, anyways. But it's trail running, though. Trail running takes a little longer. You enjoy the scene. It's up and down mountains, in the grass, dirt, whatever the case may be. Personal ego here is neither wanted nor accepted on most trails. He talks about during one of his first trail races, he was introduced to an award system that revolutionized his way of thinking. For a typical PK race, the cutoff time was usually 8 hours. The ultra elite athletes will finish in an ungodly 3 to 4 hours. Oh my goodness, that's fast. My gosh. The strong runners will finish in an impressive 4 to 5. The middle of the pack runners will finish an average of 6 to 7. And then everyone else like me, if I even finish, will finish between the 7 hour and the cutoff time of 8 hours. That's probably me coming in 7:59. I'll tell you that right now. Around the 8 hour mark, something special happens though. Finishers from all time groups start to gather at the finish line with the race directors. Soon after, cheering starts, and off in the distance, a solitary person appears out of the woods and begins hobbling with all their might towards the finish line. I already know what this is. They're cheering. They look as if the woods had been tormenting them. Pale face, bloody knees, feet bandaged to the ankles, and tears in their eyes. I already know what this looks like. It's the last dude in the race, man. Crossing the finish line, they collapse into the arms of their fellow runners, and a special medal is placed on their neck, and a celebration erupts. They epitomize what Napoleon Bonaparte meant when he said, courage isn't having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have strength. I'm going to say that again. Courage isn't having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have the strength. Wait, think about that for a second. Isn't that backwards? What kind of medal goes on the slowest person and last place finisher? I mean, if I knew about this race, I would go on it every time. It's called the DFL, or Dead Freakin' Last Award. One of the most coveted awards of all trail runners. It took more willpower, grit, and courage for that person to cross the finish line than it did anyone else. Wow. They spent more time on their feet than anyone else did. They spent more time in pain cave than anyone else did. Blisters popping, knees popping, back popping. than anyone else did. They could get at any point throughout the race, they could have gave up, and they refused to. For that, they are adorned with the coveted DFL Dead Freakin' Last award. That's crazy. That's crazy. There's first, second, but this one is the most important. Society teaches us that the podium is the essence of success, or that last place is for losers. But maybe that's not always the case. Perhaps it takes more heart to finish in last and not give up than it does to take first place by a huge margin. Man, think about that. I think about those PFTers, those 3-milers. Man, they're struggling 27 minutes going, and they're hurting. And I'm sitting there thinking the worst of them. Man, that's crazy. It really depends on the character. It really depends on the character of the person running the race and the characters of the people cheering him and her on. Or her on, excuse me. A meaningful life metaphor for the times we find ourselves struggling in the back of the pack. PFTers, the 3-milers, the ace. My goodness. I'm sitting here finishing on a 3-mile, 23 minutes. I'm sitting here dying. But then there comes in that 26-minuter. Struggling, breathing hard, about to cry, about to pass out, vomit. And they finish, you know? I get it. I wish I could run 18 minutes. I really do. But you know what? I'm satisfied with the 23. I'm content. And I would urge you to think about courage isn't having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have strength. We get it. It's individual effort. The score is a score. They're going to get it. I got it. But I got to say, one of the founding fathers, Theodore Roosevelt said, it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man struggles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. Ladies and gentlemen, Dead Freakin' Last might not mean everything to you, but it means everything to them. And society teaches us again that the podium finish is the essence of success and last place is for losers. But maybe that's not always the case. Perhaps it takes more heart to finish and last and not give up than it does for that dude that runs sub 16. Ain't nobody care. I got to finish with General Lewis B. Chesty Puller. To be successful enough to be a captain without losing my respect for a brother officer is my prayer and ambition. I say again, to be successful enough to be a captain without losing my respect for a brother officer is my prayer and ambition. Hey, do what is right, ladies and gentlemen, because it's the right thing to do. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts and on all social media platforms.
Stand by, contact. Ceasefire. Stand by, contact. Ceasefire.
Pit Talk is a podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion advised.